You know, when I finished this latest episode of Loki, I could not wait to discuss with you all of my thoughts on Kang the Conqueror and his potential future and past within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And today, that is exactly what we'll be doing as we count down the top 10 ways Kang the Conqueror is tied to the MCU. I cannot wait! Welcome back, Nerd Squad. I'm just so hyped, so without further ado, let's get into it. Number 10. White Vision. I talked about this before when WandaVision was going on, but for those who missed out on that context or have yet to see WandaVision or read Vision Quest, let me explain here. Vision Quest is a story in the comics where Vision finds himself transformed into an all-white version of himself after being completely disassembled. Hank Pym ends up attempting to put Vision back together after he's been recovered, but in doing so is kind of forced to wipe his mind clean. He ends up getting back a version of his memories where he knows who everyone is in relation to him, which is good. For example, he knows that the Avengers are his teammates and that Wanda is his wife, but he doesn't really have any emotional attachment to these memories. Now, how does this relate to Kang? Well, later on it's revealed that he was the one pulling the strings in a larger plot behind the scenes who made this all happen, but under the guise of his persona, Immortus. Kang is like a lot of different identities and personas throughout time. As we get to know him, you'll get to know that, probably. In fact, Immortus in the comics is pretty well known for meddling with Vision throughout much of his life and his and Scarlet Witch's relationship. He just loves to get to meddling with Vision and with Scarlet Witch. He's like how Mr. Sinister is with Scott, that's kind of what Kang is with Vision. Number 9. Quantumania. Let's talk about one that I'm sure you expected to be here on this list. Quantumania is the place that we know that Kang will be appearing in the MCU. At least, that's what we've been led to believe, based on the casting of Jonathan Majors to play that role in the Ant-Man and the Wasp film. The new Ant-Man and the Wasp film, Quantumania. Now, I personally do not trust any press releases or information given to us by Marvel and Disney until I see it on the screen, because, you know, they've misled us before in order to delightfully surprise us, and I do not doubt that that could happen again. But hey, that's part of the wonder of the MCU. They mislead us in an attempt to kind of preserve the mystery of the story, which I like, so I'll forgive them. However, assuming they aren't doing that here for some reason and they're being truthful, we can assume that Kang will be appearing in Quantumania as the major villain of that film. The question remains, however, will we possibly see him pop up elsewhere before his appearance in this film? And friends, if you love Kang as much as I love Kang and you are excited to see him in the MCU, honestly I feel like I really only became excited once Jonathan Majors was playing him. That's what really was like, oh okay, I'm down for Kang then. Then be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Show us that love for Kang and comment below. Maybe we'll do more Kang lists. I would like that. Would you like that? Number 8. Young Avengers. Another connection that could lead us to Kang is with the gradual appearance of the Young Avengers team, who seem to be being collected in the MCU. We are getting Kate Bishop's Hawkeye, Wanda and Vision's children Wiccan and Speed, aka Billy and Tommy, and we have also seen Patriot, aka Elijah Bradley, the grandson of Isaiah Bradley, known in the comics as Captain America. But who else was on the Young Avengers team? Iron Lad. Iron Lad is potentially someone we've already seen in the Iron Man films via Harley Keener. Many fans have speculated that the character who helped Iron Man earlier on and who showed up at Tony's funeral will likely take on the role of Iron Lad, who in the comics is hero Nathaniel Richards, who later learns of his future as Kang the Conqueror. So Young Avengers could provide us with another long and winding road that leads to Kang. Number 7. TVA, or you know, the Time Variance Authority, if we're using the formal terms. When it comes to Loki, there are a few indicators that we could be seeing Kang show up. One, Kang is attached to the TVA in the comics. At one point he attacks the agency, and one of his other personas through time, Immortus, is also attached to the TVA as well, as they actually sent agents back in time to interact with Immortus in his own past. So many time things. The TVA and Kang are not strangers to one another, and both are heavily involved in time travel shenanigans. When it comes to Kang showing up in the MCU, however, and potentially being the mastermind behind the TVA, the question remains of what exactly does he want? Why would he be here? Is it possible that he's been the one deciding what the sacred timeline should look like for his own machinations? Or simply to ensure his own existence comes to pass within the MCU? MCU, setting up the pieces to make sure he ends up as the most powerful being in the end. But the question is, if Kang is the one behind the TVA, will we be meeting him or perhaps another version of him as potentially Immortus? Number 6. Quantum Realm. One of the theories when it comes to the location of the TVA is that they could exist within the Quantum Realm, a realm that we were introduced to through Ant-Man. Time reportedly works different at the TVA, making it hard for the agents working there to really tell how long they've been there, or how much time has passed. Of course, this could be because they themselves are variants who have been turned into agents, so their minds might be a little wonky as a result. But another place where we know time moves differently is the Quantum Realm. When Scott Lang as Ant-Man was trapped in the Quantum Realm, for him only 5 hours had passed, but outside of the Quantum Realm, 5 years had passed on Earth, so presumably 1 hour equals 1 year there. Even Loki, when he is at the end of time, notes he doesn't really know how long he's been trapped there, and he kind of remarks that it could have been weeks or it could have been months that had passed. It's really hard for him to tell. If the TVA or possibly the end of time is connected to or located within the Quantum Realm, then this supplies us with another connection to Quantumania potentially, where Kang is intended to appear. Number 5. The color purple. During episode 5 of Loki, Sylvie and our main variant Loki end up joining forces once more in an attempt to uncover who is really behind the TVA and likely hiding and cleaning everything up at the end of time, where they find themselves after being pruned. In order for them to lift the veil, so to speak, their plan is to connect with our mastermind's guardian, a skeletal and smoky creature who appears to be made out of light and purple clouds. He's named Alioth by Kid Loki, which is another thing that we'll talk about in a minute. One of the other things that I noticed about this creature was how striking the color of it was, especially as we've seen a lot of purple themed things in the MCU over the years. But there's also something purple that we hadn't seen just yet, and that is Kang. Now I know what you're thinking, but Amanda, Kang is blue. Like, look at his face, he's got a blue face. Yes, he does have a blue face, but a good amount of his costume is purple, meaning it could very well be a key color for him thematically whenever Kang does end up showing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this time, of course, where he shows up could be nigh. Color motifs and themes could of course be used to throw us off, but from a cinematic standpoint, we've mostly seen them used in the MCU to help us identify key characters and items. So cinematically, color association is like a huge thing in film, in my opinion, and definitely in the MCU. Number 4. Alioth. Alioth is the name given to the purple beast that we see in Loki episode 5 by Kid Loki. The creature being given this name is very important, as it's definitely meant to be a reference to the Alioth in the comics. Alioth the Usurper, the supreme time being. Alioth is both a foe of Kang's, but also kind of a sometimes unknown and potentially unwilling ally. Kind of in the way of like, my enemy's enemy is my friend. Does that make sense? You know what I mean. Kang at one point sicks Alioth on the TVA, pitting them against one another. When it comes to controlling all of time and the multiverse, there are actually a few rivals that Kang has in the comics. One is the TVA, another is Alioth, then there is the Congress of Realities, and of course Revelation, the future version of his love, Ravonna, aka Terminatrix. Also, Terminatrix is a really cool name. It just makes me think of Dominatrix. It just makes her sound like more of a badass. Also, when people have like costumes that are mostly like armor plates and weird spots, I'm really into that. It's so like 80s and 90s, I love it. Number 3, the castle or Chronopolis? Some believe that the castle we saw at the end of episode 5 and got a glimpse of when Sylvie connected with Alioth is actually Kang's, or rather Kang's other identity, Immortus's. Immortus's castle is never really given a name in the comics, but it has been referred to by fans as Castle Limbo, due to where it is located in the magical limbo dimension. Now this limbo I don't think is the same limbo as Magic's, just to be clear, Magic being the mutant and X-Men member, but in the MCU they could be the same thing, we don't really know yet. Just to make things easier obviously, because we can't have two things that are called limbo that are different, that's going to be really confusing for people watching. So if we do end up having kind of two limbos, one is going to need to be renamed, making it a lot less confusing for people that are watching. If it is also Magic's limbo here in the MCU, there is a good chance that the castle could belong to Doom. Now it definitely looks like Doom's castle from Latveria, and Dr. Doom has ruled Limbo before, so it could still be in Limbo and somehow be Dr. Doom's his castle. That's a possibility. But back to Kang, or Immortus. Immortus' castle is located in a version of Limbo that is different in that it exists between the gaps in time, whereas Magic's is kind of like a hellish otherworld realm. And this castle is also located in Chronopolis, so it's all connected. Immortus' Limbo castle is also therefore located in a place that connects to the nexus of all realities. Sounds like it would fit in pretty well here, right? We've heard Nexus come up a lot in Loki, I'm just saying. Number 2. Judge Renslayer. Renslayer is an important name for Kang fans as it is the surname of his love Ravonna. Ravonna Renslayer is also known under the alias Terminatrix, and is a woman that Kang seeks to earn the love of as he falls for her pretty much as soon as he sets his eyes on her in the comics. She makes her first appearance in Avengers issue 23 in volume 1 out of the 60s, where Kang attempts to impress her by summoning and defeating the Avengers. I mean, that's how you win a woman's heart, right? Just beat up a bunch of people? Ravonna at that time actually is not impressed by it and refuses his marriage proposal and attempts to woo her, claiming that he is just below her station as she is a princess, so she's not feeling it at that point. However, Judge Renslayer seems to have already been won over by Kang at this point, as it's indicated that everything she does for the good of the TVA for all time always is actually to protect her beloved Kang for all time always. At least that's based on her facial expression when she's having that talk with the other agent. It's like, I saw that look. She was like, oh, you know that I'm protecting someone else. Number 1. Where all Nexuses lead. Even if WandaVision, Loki, the Young Avengers, or the Multiverse of Madness, or anything else that we're about to get, all do not give us a direct connection to Kang or Immortus, the fact remains that he'll still likely surface as a bigger bad in the future. If we don't get him now, we're getting him at some point. Very likely in Quantumania, of course, and considering how big of a villain he is in the comics and how he's known to exist throughout time and in various other realities and identities, odds are good that he'll be the next big bad and mastermind revealed to have been pulling the strings all along. I mean, it's either that or it really was Agatha. Was it Agatha all along, or was it Kang all along? Is Agatha Kang? Oh my gosh. Probably not. That'd be crazy. What are your biggest Kang theories, clues, and Easter eggs? How are you liking Loki so far? Who do you think will be the new big bad in the MCU? Kang, or do you think there's someone greater working in the shadows? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I am your host Amanda McKnight, reminding you to stay nerdy, YouTube.